We're still fascinated every week that we get up and get to come to see a large congregation of Christadelphians because it's so unusual for us. And we really appreciate the opportunity to have a class. Once it gets up there, it's going to say the mountains of the Holy Land. That's a little bit of a misnomer. It's really a kind of a collection of thoughts concerning the general idea, two general ideas. One is, are the mountains that are presented in the Bible, and I think they're presented for a reason. And mountains go from the very beginning of the new creation from Noah all the way to Mount Zion, right? So mountains are a big thing in the Bible. And one of the things that I hope to show besides the mountains are some geography sort of things. And we'll let them get that up on the screen. I'm sure it's coming soon. Before I even get started, I want to give a shout out to my lovely sister wife Sarah, who has helped me put together these slides fairly quickly. This week was a whirlwind for us. Started out in Pennsylvania, and then Monday went to Maryland, and then Tuesday to class here, and Wednesday to I had Mountain Grove Wednesday night. And as busy as my week is, it doesn't even compare to Sarah's week. She is in a position with a financial institution, and they are rolling out a whole new business product, and she's actually in charge of communications for the whole bank. So she has been just super busy, but has helped me put together a great set of slides. So if you see her in the aisles, give her a big thanks, if you will. Again, we're going through, and it says the mountains of the Holy Land, and so there's where we're going to start with that, and I hope we all kind of know is Mount Ararat. And so the idea with Ararat is that when God saw that the whole earth was violent and wicked and decided to start all over again, he puts Noah and his family in a boat, and they come to rest on what are called the mountains of Ararat. And we sort of think that the mountains of Ararat are probably in just south of Armenia. I'll show you guys a picture in a minute. But, it's kind of a start out to the class. I want to kind of show some of these things and more or less what they look like. Now, this particular one, Sarah generated off of AI, but I'm going to go to the next one and let you take a look of this is the actual mountain here, and so you can see what it looks like. It's quite formidable and quite a thing. Joe? I'll go back. 16,864. So that's pretty high. That's Pikes Peak is what, around 16.6? 14. Okay. Higher than we have in the States for sure. And you can sort of get an idea of where it's located. I think if we go to the next slide, you'll get an even better idea. So just as a general concept and how we're going to go into this is, so there's sort of a lesson. So what sort of lesson do you guys glean from the fact that Noah and his family are put out in a sort of different region than they originally came from? And what I associate it with is closely with salvation. And I think that as we look through the idea of these mountains, that God showed grace to Noah and his family and provided a place for them to habitate, which obviously is terra firma here. And that's the promise, isn't it? That's what it says in Matthew. We'll inherit the earth. And so that's part of it. So it didn't take very long, and we'll see how mankind sort of took a bad turn here fairly quickly. I'll go to the next slide. I do have quite a few verses later on, but we're just going to kind of start out this way. These are some things about Ararat that you guys might find interesting. So the next slides that we're going to go to actually concern something that was initially found in the 60s, and then they started unearthing it in 95. I don't know how many people are familiar with this or how many people are archaeology people, but there's a set of ruins that have been found called Göbekli Tepe. Anybody at least familiar with the concept? And it's the oldest archaeological finds. Of course, they think it's maybe 12 or 13,000 years old, which we know is impossible. However, it's sort of interesting where Göbekli Tepe is located because it's actually in the same general region. From this map, you can see where you see Armenia there up on the map. And if you were to just go south just a bit and see that nice big white peak between them, I probably should have a pointer. I don't know if there's one around here or not. Is this it right here? Let's see. Oh, you got it turned on. Thank you, David. Let's see if that works. Ooh. Well, not so much. Am I hitting the right thing, the little green button? Thank you, David. Show me what to do here. Oh, there we go. Perfect. The little green button. Thank you so much. Okay, so if you look at the white peak here, that is the location of what they call Mount Ararat. There's all kind of archaeological things there that they think may or may not be associated with Noah's Ark, and I don't think that's really necessarily important. But we do have some general idea that that is kind of where mankind more or less restarted in that general area. And as you can see, they moved down apparently fairly quickly to this area, Göbekli Tepe. And please feel free, I'm going to show a couple pictures of it, but if you have time, get online and kind of look at it. The interesting thing about this particular ruin is, unlike most other ruins that you find of mankind, the sculptures there are about 40 different animals depicted in reliefs. There's no pictures of like goddesses or gods or any of that sort of thing, which I found to be fairly interesting. And at Göbekli Tepe, those are where the headwaters of the Euphrates and the Tigris are, which is kind of interesting. They just kind of moved down into that area. So from here to here, and then we know kind of where they generally moved into would be the Fertile Crescent there. I'll move past this. So these are a picture of the excavations, and they are the now, since 1995, the world's oldest known excavations. And you can see there's some sort of a temple complex there, and this is an AI rendering of what it generally sort of looked like. And the reliefs that you find of those animals are on these stellars here. Obviously, you can't see it at this thing, but as you get time, and you can see here it says kind of interesting things: fox, lions, vultures, bears. And one of the interesting things is that those animals are not necessarily from that region. They would have been from other regions on the earth, and how human beings would have even known of some of those animals is sort of interesting in itself. So then, and as we're just kind of following mankind, by the way, and we're seeing how they move. So yeah, this wasn't attributed to any gods or goddesses, but as we sort of continue along. So that one of the earliest stories we see are Mount Babel, and a lot of people would say Babylon. And where do we think that? And of course, there's all kind of scholars out there that think other than that. But we have two pretty good references that Babel was near Babylon, and one of them is Nebuchadnezzar himself, and the other, who tried to rebuild it, bad idea. And also Josephus tells us that from antiquity, people believe that this particular site right here, and you can see it, it's I think it's about 208. It's a little over an acre, which was the biggest known building at the time. And I wish I could really get a zoom in on it so you could see a little bit better. It's completely eroded. And several different things have happened to it. Now, Nebuchadnezzar did try to rebuild it during his reign, and that didn't work out so well. When Sennacherib came in, that was one of his main things. Of course, we know Sennacherib from his dealings with the Israelites, most especially Judah, and how that didn't work out for him. However, when he invaded Babylon, one of his biggest things was to destroy this tower, which Nebuchadnezzar had used to symbolize his power. and it is completely eroded, unlike the next temple that I'm going to show you. Now, when it was rebuilt by Nebuchadnezzar, he ascribed it to the god Marduk. I think that might be on some. Here it is. And so a lot of people don't actually realize this, but you could check it out for yourself. Nebuchadnezzar, that's what we call him. His name is, I believe, Nebuchadrezzar, and he was actually named after Marduk. So that's yes, sir, Joe.
In the ancient Zoroastrian religion of Babylon, Marduk or Bel was a sun god.
Correct.
And there's a whole kind of lineage somehow that connects back to Nimrod. But
Yes.
I didn't think they'd actually found the site yet for Mount Babel. They're still looking, I thought, but maybe this is one of them.
I've got some things here that may give you a different idea. Yeah.
The other thing was with Mount Ararat, just for a second, one of the things that always fascinated me, that ship is humongous. How are you going to land a ship on top of the mountain and keep it level?
Not likely. And then from the discussions, he was able to grow a vineyard in that very region, really close. Well, you can't grow a vineyard way up high on the mountain. It has to be considerably further south than the snow line for sure. So probably in that region.
I just think it's cool, though, that he landed it there.
I'm going to advance the slides. Where was the Tower of Babel? The best place to go from where the Tower of Babel is what the Bible says. And it says in the plain of Shinar. And the plain of Shinar in antiquity was between the Tigris and Euphrates. I'm going to say it's probably right in that general area right there. But, I'm sorry, it's right here, right in this general area. But we got some better maps here. Let me advance that. So I want to back up just for a minute. So why am I talking about the Tower of Babel when I'm talking about mountains? Yeah, so let's try to reach the heavens just like God. We're gonna make ourselves equal with God, and I was glad that I had that. I'll show you what happened to it. It just completely crumbled into nothing, and it's a big pile of dust, which is basically what happens when mankind tries to do anything. Again, it was torn down by Sennacherib, who hated the idea that Nebuchadnezzar ascribed this to his God, who apparently he didn't believe in either. I think there's some more stuff here that might satisfy some of Joe's curiosities, but maybe it's on the next slide, or maybe we erased it. Okay, so moving right along. So from sun god, we go to. Oh wait, no, we're not there yet. Okay, so here's a picture of it, more or less. You can see what Nebuchadnezzar had to say there. And I'm going to go on to the next slide. So this may help to answer some of Joe's questions. A black stone stele depicting Nebuchadnezzar II besides the ziggurat with an inscription identified it as Itumanaki, found near the Assyrian temple now housed in the Iraqi Museum at Baghdad. And it shows that this is actually it right here. And you can see Nebuchadnezzar, and you can actually see the sun and the moon. But Marduk, I think, was associated with the sun. But this is sort of important to the next phase of my class here. So what are the ideal for today, besides covering Ararat, was to cover the mountains of Abraham. So that's kind of what we're going to go into now. And we're going to kind of do a little jump off from the Tower of Babel, which was something that Abram would have been familiar with. And in fact, we'll show some maps here. He actually traveled through this area. I'll give you guys a chance to kind of look over this. Herodias actually also confirmed that he believed that was the actual site of the Tower of Babel. So you got Josephus, Herodias, and Nebuchadnezzar all saying that that's where it is. I'm going to say they're pretty good little group of folks there. Okay, now we're going to go to this, the Great Ziggurat of Ur. And this actually kind of works in with our story or what we want to teach about. So, who's from Ur? Abram, right? And 2200 BCE, guess what was happening in Ur, of all places in the whole world? That's right, the Great Ziggurat of Ur is being constructed at that particular time. And I got some videos and so forth and so on. But so you're a believer, right? And you live in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. That's a nice place. I've been there before. And they start building the world's greatest church and dedicate it to the moon goddess, or moon god Nana, in your backyard. And they're employing thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people to build this big temple. And that's your hometown, right? Is it going to bother you? It said of Lot, his righteous soul was vexed day to day because of Sodom and Gomorrah, but Lot came from this particular town. And you can just imagine, if you're a believer, Abram, who God would call, what that would be like. You're living here in this town, and on the whole side of the whole world, they just decided to build this temple right here in your backyard. And so it's at this point that we begin the story of Abram. And these two towers are related. Apparently, we can move through it here. And this shows, of course, the migration of Abraham from Ur, and we can see he goes to Haran. But where does he go through on his way there? The only way to get there, right through Babylon. So he would have got to see the ruins of the Tower of Babel. It probably would have been, reasonably fresh at that time. And then he moves up to Haran. Let's see. I am missing all kind of things here. Okay, wait, actually, I'm supposed to click here. So let me click on that. A little short video, and hopefully this will come up without ads that get too terribly crazy. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna turn on the, I don't know if we have audio or not.
Unlike anything seen before, a dominant royal regime rules a growing civilization. But without access to stone, timber, or metal, how do the Sumerians construct a bustling metropolis here?
That's what I was going to do.
The secrets of the Sumerian engineers could lie within the greatest structure they ever built, the towering ziggurat. The first temple on this site is a much smaller mud brick structure. Exposed to the elements, within decades, it crumbles. But the sacred ruins are used as foundations for a new temple, slightly bigger and taller than the last. Over centuries, the mound of ruins grows, until it's a 100-foot colossus made from hundreds of thousands of bricks. How does this massive mud brick monument survive for millennia? To investigate, Abdullamir examines the 4,000-year-old bricks used to build the original ziggurat.
They have a huge structure of mud, so clearly you can see the core, and then it was covered completely by baked brick.
Kiln-fired mud bricks encase the ancient ziggurat to give it a tough exterior. But mud bricks alone can't keep a structure this size standing for thousands of years. Abdullamir thinks the Sumerians developed new ways to hold the giant banks of mud in place.
So now what we are looking for is layers of bitumen here. You can see it, mud bricks, bitumen, that's the whole structure.
Bitumen is a tar-like substance that wells up naturally from the ground. 2 inches The Sumerians import tons of it from hundreds of miles away and use it as an ancient form of cement to lock the fired mud brick walls in place.
Let's see if I can get this back now. Kind of used to a touch screen, so this is different. There we go. Am I back? There we go. Close this out. Oh, that didn't work. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay, hold on. I'm just going to work through it like this. How about that? We're still there? Oh, my. Okay, well, we can kind of work through that anyways while they're getting this straightened out. So the scripture tells us when you read the account of the Tower of Babel that they built with bricks and that they pitched it with slime. Apparently, they brought the same technology with them to Ur as civilization moved down the Euphrates. The reason that it was a good building product is we use asphalt today. And obviously it lasts for a long time because what you're looking at is nearly 4,000 years old. But imagine if you just generally built with brick and lime and mortar, like they build here in Richmond. Now, how long is that mortar going to last? That's the weak point, right? It might last for 300 or 400 years. That's basically the shelf life of regular mortar. Now, the Romans actually made it a little bit better by putting pig blood in it, and they found that the pig blood actually helped preserve the concrete, and some of their structures are at least 3,000 years old and still remain to this day. But generally, mortar will begin to fail, especially in a hot, dry climate like that, whereas the asphalt can melt and then reform itself and hold these bricks into place. So this particular temple is dedicated to, let's see if we can get there. Nope. Well, I don't really know where it is. I know where it is in my notes. I don't want to give you guys bad information, so I'm going to make sure that I'm telling to you right.
Hey, Stu.
Yes.
I just love how reality sort of backs this up. So if you had this amazing tower in Babel and everybody spoke the same language, and then God divided them up into different languages and they all scatter, which is what he wanted, and lo and behold, you would expect to see these great structures around the world, and of course that's exactly what we find.
Right.
And I just love that. It's like somebody said about the flood. If the earth really was flooded, you'd expect to see a lot of water, and there's like 70% of the land mass 70% of the surface of the earth is water. So it's just, there's all these truths out there that are in reality that we can look at, and it just totally backs up what we read in Scripture.
So the primary deity of Ur was the male god Nana in Sumerian, and called Sin, interestingly enough, in Atticane. Where's our linguistic scholar here? Thank you very much. And then if we actually start going to the Bible account, which is actually the whole point of this, isn't it? I'm really usually not this discombobulated, but the slides are a little different than that I had originally put out. So, well, we're all going to know this. Genesis chapter 11. Here we go. Genesis 11. Terah took Abraham his son, and Lot the son of Haran his son's son, and Sarai his daughter-in-law, his son Abram's wife, and they went forth from Ur of the Chaldees to go into the land of Canaan, and there they came to Haran and dwelt there. And the days of Terah were 205 years, and Terah died in Haran. a couple of things that I want you guys to kind of, maybe three different things to kind of think about for just a bit. First of all, Terah had a son named Haran, and he's moving to Haran. And from the account, it doesn't say that Abraham moved his family. It says Terah took Abraham, his son, and moved to Haran. Guess what is in Haran? The second temple dedicated to the moon god, Nana, or Sin. And so Terah takes his family from one moon god place, Ur of the Chaldees, and moves them to Haran. Now, in the whole known world, there's only 2 temples dedicated to the moon god Nana. Coincidence? I think not. Yes, Joe?
The ziggurat itself, as a model of construction, became the touchstone for the rest of the world. So it started here, but the pyramids are based off the same concept. It's a 60-degree slope because it doesn't fall apart. But you see it in the New World, like I've been to Teotihuacan in Mexico City, and the Olmecs, the Aztecs, use the exact same angles, exact same infrastructure as the great Ziggurat of Ur.
Yeah, they're actually all over the world. They're,
Yeah.
they're in Taiwan, they're in China.
Yep. Which is another proof for transoceanic contact in North and South America, because it's the exact same model, same blueprint, and they brought it with them. So the epicenter of it all is right here, and it was the model for everything else. So I think it's cool.
Well, as a model, and in context, it actually all started from the Tower of Babel. So this was more or less a copy of the Tower of Babel. You can see from its construction, and we do know that Genesis tells us specifically that it was built out of brick that was mortared with slime, which is actually the same. Slime was from the same word of the stuff that they put the pitch for the ark. So it was a waterproof membrane material. But yes, they carried it with them wherever they went. Yes.
So the painting that was done in the 1500s, that was the model of the new United
Nations, right?
United Nations building. Well, it's actually like the European Union building.
That's
is
absolutely
modeled
correct.
after that. So it's just kind of cool.
Yes, it is. And generally, what I guess what I wanted to show with that was what happened to the Tower of Babel. It really basically is no more. We have the footprints, and there's crumbled dust there, but nothing is left. And so what do we know from when the rock tumbles down in Daniel? That it strikes the image, and that the image becomes dust and is no more. And so Babel, as a symbol of the construction of mankind, is destined to failure for sure. So now we're going to start and actually go along the travels of Abram. And I think that is important. If you guys will turn with me to Genesis 12. After the event of Terah in Genesis 11, by the way. It says, the Lord said unto Abraham, get thee out of thy country and from thy kindred and from thy father's house unto a land that I will show thee. And I will make thy name great, and I will make you a great nation. I will bless thee, and you will be a blessing. But he hasn't actually blessed him yet. He's telling him, if you do this, I will do this, right? That's an if-then statement. But the third point that I wanted to get to when we're talking about this Ziggurat of Ur, and you can imagine it's and it's the biggest construction project ever known on Earth other than the Tower of Babel, which was a complete disaster. And it's in your backyard. You can imagine it's a cosmopolitan place, right? Plenty of everything associated with building this building. And God comes to him. He says, get out of here. Go somewhere, but I'm not going to tell you where you're going to go, but go somewhere. And Terah says, okay, fine, we're going to move to Haran. And so they move to Haran. It's quite a ways. It's 600 miles. And they're walking or they might have a donkey. Possibly they could have had a cart. And so they move along to Haran, and they dwell there for 25 years. And when Abram is in Haran, even though it's a jumping off point, he's still having to deal with this moon goddess of Nana. And so you can imagine it's already vexing his soul, and he's a true man of faith, and then God comes to him, and God doesn't talk to him every day. In fact, there's no real account of God talking to him for 25 years. That's sort of interesting. So imagine the faith that it takes to not hear anything, but then be told 25 years later, okay, now. And it was after Terah died, right? So my thought, and I've read this, and you guys have probably heard this before, that Terah was a worshiper of idols. And I think that might actually be scriptural, but I didn't take time to look that up. But God had to let that go away as an influence. And I think there's a close association with this particular god, Nana, that he had to get away from. So when Terah died, then God says, okay, now go to the land of Canaan. And verse 6 of chapter 12, and Abram passed through the land into the place of Shechem in the plain of Moriah, and the Canaanite was in the land. And the Lord appeared unto Abraham and said, unto thee will I give this land. And he built there an altar unto the Lord. And he removed from thence into a mountain on the east of Bethel, and pitched his tent, having Bethel to the west and Ai to the east. And there he builded an altar unto the Lord, and called upon the name of the Lord. So this one I call the unnamed. Again, I'll show us the trek. And I don't want to lose the importance that it is 600 miles from here to here, which coincidentally was about the distance from Elkins, Arkansas to the Texas Bible School. And that's quite a trek. But imagine you're doing it on a donkey. And then he moves again 500 miles, 1,100 miles altogether. Takes a lot of faith.
It's Israel, there's a section where Brother Thomas puts together with some other references that are in the Minor Prophets, suggesting that the Holy Land in the Kingdom Age will extend from the Mediterranean all the way to the Persian Gulf, and it would fit in that all the land that Abraham saw, not just at the time when he was standing on the hill in Israel, but from his very beginnings, would encompass the Holy Land in the Kingdom Age, which is kind of cool. You can take that or leave it, but it's in Elpis Israel.
I think the scriptures are fairly clear that it does say all the way to the Euphrates. So
Right, yeah, the Euphrates is the northern border.
Right.
And then you go all the way to the east.
Right.
To the other sea.
So we're going to say the Euphrates to the Mediterranean, probably.
Yeah, so the northern border is the Euphrates, the southern border is the Nile, and then the western border is the Mediterranean, and the eastern border is, it says, the other sea or something to that effect.
Right, so what do you think about the southern border?
Well, he didn't go down there. That was all desert.
I got you.
But there's another prophecy that talks about the forests of Arabia. So we would expect that whole desert area to become a forest in the Kingdom Age.
Okay.
So there's another connection, which is kind of a bit morbid, but really cool. And we know definitely this about Jericho, the city of Jericho. Just reading from Joshua chapter 6, it says here, and Joshua, I can't read, adjured then at that time, saying, cursed be the man before the Lord that riseth up and buildeth this city, Jericho. He shall lay the foundation thereof in his firstborn, and in his younger son shall he set up the gates of it. It's quite possible that the foundation, the older child was sacrificed to the sun god, and when the gates were built, the younger son was sacrifice to the moon gods, you have moon gates, right? So that's quite possible. Not really important, but it's established as absolute fact in Scripture that when people built towers and cities, that they sacrificed their children. And this is a widespread practice in this part of the world. And then even in the Aztecs, what did they do with their temples? They sacrificed Mayans. Right? So blood sacrifices were a popular way. And it's interesting because you mentioned the pig's blood being mingled into the bitumen to make a stronger concrete. They also mingled the blood of their own children. Now, here's the interesting thing. Abram's called out of this, right? You are not to sacrifice your children when you're making buildings. He goes to the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, and God says, sacrifice your son, build an altar and sacrifice your son. And then he says, no, don't do that. That's wrong. My son will be the offering, not yours. And so then you can see how Jesus plays into this whole thing about this connection of sacrificing your son to building a temple. So
Okay.
it's a cool connection.
So this is a,
So a question about that then.
yes.
Who's following whose pattern? Are people following God's pattern? Because he doesn't say anything about mountains and temples by that point. Or is God following, he's saying, okay, this is the way people want it. This is the way I will do it. We'll use a mountain and a temple and sacrifices, et cetera.
Well, I think originally he always wanted to use mountains as a symbol, and it was hijacked. And that's my opinion. And it's like we talked about with the Tower of Babel. It was an attempt of mankind to make themselves co-equal or co-important with God. We are unable to recognize how insignificant we are, really, and as human beings, and so we want to try to elevate ourselves to that degree. Just a couple things. This was is the actual picture of the Temple of Haran, and just as an aside, when we talked about the moon goddess, in the notes it said that the moon's worship was prevalent in this region because the sun was so oppressive, and so that there had to be a nice moon god that was easier to worship. And I suppose we're out of time. Hopefully we'll continue on with the mountains of Abraham, and then we'll get into the mountains of Moses. I appreciate everyone's time and attention this morning.